Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. The Governor's Awards were last night, and I thought I would give you my reaction. I watched all of the clips on YouTube. You can see the speeches and everybody who presented the winners and stuff. Tom Cruise finally has an Academy Award. I can't believe it. I mean, it's not a competitive Oscar, and, we'll talk about it, but it's still something, right? And boy, what a speech he gave. I just watched it a couple hours ago, and it got me kind of teary-eyed, guys. Tom Cruise loves the movies. He cherishes this art form. You can see that in pretty much every interview he does. And boy, in his speech last night, he really did a fine job, addressing everything he loves about film. So I'm going to talk about Tom Cruise's win and the wins of the other three, of course. Before I get to that, a couple observations about the Governor's Awards. The first thing, I can't be alone on this, guys. I can't be the only one who thinks these wins at the Governor's Awards, they should be a part of the main ceremony in March. They used to be, right? Growing up in the 90s, watching the Oscars every year, some of my favorite segments, I don't know about you, were the tributes, were the honorary awards, when we would stop for 5 to 10 minutes. There wouldn't be a competitive category. You'd have a tribute to someone who was older, an actor, a director, a producer, and you would get information about their lives, about their careers, and then they would come out on stage to a standing ovation. Pretty much every year. There was a big one in the 90s, early 2000s. I have always adored these tributes being a part of the main show. I know it's long, and you have to find ways to shorten the Oscars here and there. I get it. But it just doesn't have the same magic for me when it's a part of this other ceremony in November. It's not like most people are watching it. Most people outside of seeing it on YouTube are not going to know that Tom Cruise just got an Oscar a few hours ago. They're not going to know. And it's man, we're always talking about how can the Oscars have more of a viewership and stuff. Imagine if the Tom Cruise tribute was a part of the show in March. That would have gone through the roof. People would have watched that, loved that, shared it online. It would have probably been one of the greatest moments of the 98th Academy Awards in March. And instead, it's in November at the Governor's Awards. It's well attended, and the speeches are wonderful. I don't know. I think these tributes should be in the main show. They'll probably have a very tiny segment addressing the 4 wins and, Tom Cruise's speech and stuff, but it's not the same thing. I mean, I still remember in the 90s seeing Deborah Kerr get an honorary Oscar from Glenn Close. As a young, budding cinephile, I didn't know who she was, but I watched that segment and I was intrigued by her career and, who she was as an actress. That was my introduction to Deborah Kerr when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere around there. And I just think that element is lost for today's youth who really love movies and the Oscars. I mean, I'm happy we still have the honorary Oscars. If it's a matter of we have them still in this other ceremony or we do away with them completely, I'm still very much for this Governor's Awards in November. I just think they should be a part of the ceremony in March. That's just me. And then the other observation I have about the Governor's Awards, it's just it has to be said, guys, it's kind of odd to me how anybody who has even a modicum of a chance at an Oscar nomination next year feels compelled to be at the Governor's Awards. If you are in the Oscars conversation for a nomination come January, it's one step you have to make during your campaign is attending the Governor's Awards in November. I mean, you look at the contenders in actress, actor, supporting actor, almost all of them were there last night. I mean, in Best Actress, pretty much the only person still in the conversation, maybe for a Golden Globe Award, who didn't show up was Julia Roberts after The Hunt. Julia Roberts wasn't there. But everybody else we are currently talking about for the Best Actress Golden Globe nomination, Critics' Choice, SAG. I am going to keep calling it SAG, guys. I'm not calling that thing the Actors Awards, at least right now. BAFTA, the Oscars, anyone in the conversation was in that room. And I just find that kind of odd. I watched the videos last night, and there are like tables for the movies. There's the one battle after another table, the sentimental value table. Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt are there. Like, even if your chances at this point are pretty much like null, like you're probably not getting anywhere past the Golden Globes maybe, they're all in the room. And it's like, they're not really being interviewed very much. There's some pictures that show up online, and that's it. It's just kind of bizarre to me, guys, to think if you want to get an Oscar nomination, you have to attend the Governor's Awards. It seems like you could skip that, and like everything will work out fine. Timothée Chalamet was not there, and he's in many ways the front runner right now to win the Best Actor Oscar. Chalamet was not in the room. So that suggests to me, like you don't have to go. I wonder if it's something that a lot of publicists push. Like, hey, you're in the conversation, like you need to get out there, go to the parties, and go to the Governor's Awards in November. That's the big ceremony of any kind of like relevance in November in the industry. So it's like a Sunday night. It makes sense that they would block out their calendar, let me show my face, get the face out there and stuff. It comes off kind of comical to me that like you have to attend the Governor's Awards if you have even a prayer at an Oscar nomination. I don't think that should be the case. So those are a couple of my stray observations about the Governor's Awards. I mean, in terms of like the ceremony itself and the speeches, it went very well last night. I really enjoyed watching everyone's speeches on YouTube, and we had 4 amazing winners there. Do we call them winners since it's not competitive? I don't know. Like what else would you call them? Like Tom Cruise, if he didn't win the Oscar last night, he was bestowed an Oscar on. I don't know, but I mean, I think of them as winners. These are people in the industry who deserve to get an Oscar win at some point, and here it was. Let's begin with Tom Cruise, of course. I mean, this was a long time coming. He had 3 Oscar nominations for acting, 1 for producing Top Gun Maverick. And I mean, he was probably in second place. Like each of the times he got the acting Oscar nomination, he won a Golden Globe for each of the 3 performances he got in at the Oscars for. And, I still think he should have won for Magnolia, 1999, Best Supporting Actor. It still pisses me off to this day when I'm like, yeah, we all love Michael Caine, but he didn't have to win for that. Someone shared on Twitter a few hours ago, like, yay, like the Academy, they did the right thing. 25 years later, they finally gave Tom Cruise his much-deserved Oscar for Magnolia. Some people, I think, are choosing to see his win last night, the honorary award, as the makeup for him not winning for Magnolia many, many years ago. And I get that, because that to me is the Tom Cruise performance for the ages. I mean, maybe we could see something down the road that equals that or comes close to it. I mean, just watching Magnolia again a few weeks ago for my Paul Thomas Anderson rewatch, like before I made that ranking video, I just fell under his spell again. He is so freaking incredible in that film. So, like, we've been waiting, right? We've been waiting for Tom Cruise to get his Oscar. It still hasn't happened in a competitive category, but he won the honorary Oscar and gave such a lovely speech. I loved his hug with Steven Spielberg, who he's made 2 movies with. It's such a lovely speech. I highly recommend you check it out on YouTube. It's only 12 minutes. He doesn't stand up there for like 25, 30 minutes going on and on and on and on. He could have, and I would have watched the whole thing. But I think he knew, like, this is not the place to just ramble on and on forever and, recognize every single person he's worked with in the industry. I mean, he could have stood there for 10 minutes just rattling off every major director he's ever worked with going back to the 80s. He didn't do that. He just said, anyone in the room who I've worked with, stand up. Let me share this moment with you. Now, I've talked about on the channel before, it has bummed me out the last decade plus that he hasn't taken more chances in like dramatic work in movies. You look at that run he had, especially in the 90s going into the early 2000s. It's just like one banger of a dramatic performance after another, working with all of these auteur directors and stuff. And then he became action movie guy. And that's fine. I've enjoyed his action movies. But you look at like the last decade, really the only film that's not a part of a franchise is American Made 2017. That was the only one. Other than that, it's been Mission Impossible and Top Gun Maverick and Jack Reacher, right? That's about it. So I am so excited. Like, I don't know about you guys, I am thrilled that he has made a film with Alejandro G. Inarritu, who introduced him last night. And I think it's untitled right now. It was called Judy for a moment. And I was like, guys, you can't call it Judy. That was a Renee Zellweger movie a few years ago that got her the Oscar win in Best Actress. So they didn't refer to the title last night. I think it's currently untitled, but it's coming out next year. And I'm really thrilled to see Tom Cruise work with an auteur like that and do something different. I can't wait. I mean, I don't know when we'll first get to see it. Will that premiere at Cannes? I am going to the Cannes Film Festival, guys, in May. Like, could that premiere there? The new film starring Tom Cruise, directed by Inarritu, like, boy, that's going to be really exciting. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's kind of crazy to suggest, right? Tom Cruise could get another Oscar nomination in a year or so for that new film with Inarritu. Like, that could happen. Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, won an Oscar for an Inarritu movie, The Revenant, a decade ago. So who's to say Cruise might not get into Best Actor in a year? It'd be similar to Henry Fonda, who got an honorary Oscar in the early 80s, and then a year later, he won his competitive Oscar for Best Actor for On Golden Pond. That's the example that comes to mind. I mean, Henry Fonda passed away a few months after that, so I think Tom Cruise has like a long way to go, of course. But that would be weird. Like, after all of these decades, the Academy finally gives him an honorary Oscar, and then a year later, he wins Best Actor. I mean, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but he's definitely going to be a part of the conversation. And it's possible he gets a nomination, so, like, we'll see. One of my very first videos I made for the awards contender in early 2022 was Tom Cruise and the Elusive Oscar. I questioned back then, could he ever win? Could he get an honorary Oscar? It has happened. It was very thrilling to see him holding a gold trophy for the first time. The Tom Cruise. He has deserved a win going back many decades. And even though it's not a competitive victory, it's still something very special, very important. Tom Cruise has an Academy Award. Of course, he wasn't the only person to win last night. There were 4 recipients. Another was Debbie Allen, the amazing Debbie Allen, who's done so much good work in the industry as a director, as an actress, as a producer, as a choreographer. I mean, she has worn a lot of hats going back decades. And I just think it's really fantastic the Academy did the right thing and gave her an honorary Oscar. I just think she is a very special talent, who's done so much great work going back to the 80s and 90s, like her work on Amistad, on Fame. She just has bounced around and done a lot of really cool things. And, I think she's the kind of person it was going to be tricky to get her a competitive Oscar win. So I'm really, really happy Debbie Allen got an honorary award. Wynn Thomas also got an honorary Oscar last night. He's a very beloved production designer in the industry. Got started with Spike Lee on his early movies. And then into the 90s and 2000s, he worked with a lot of great directors. He's never gotten a competitive Oscar nomination for production design, which, looking that up a few hours ago, I was like, what? Like Malcolm X? He didn't get into production design for Malcolm X? He's done a lot of great work. And this, to me, this is what's really special about the Governor's Awards, honorary Oscars. Someone whose name many of us might not know, who's in a trade like production design or casting or cinematography, and they never got their flowers, maybe never even got an Oscar nomination. And then at the Governor's Awards, they give them an honorary trophy. I think that's one of the great things about this organization. That it's not just Tom Cruise and 3 other big stars or something. You also have a very well-regarded production designer who gets his moment in the spotlight, gets an introduction, gets to give a speech, and he's a part of this ceremony with these 3 other more well-known people. So that, I think, is really awesome. I'm so happy Wynn Thomas got an honorary Oscar. And then, of course, the one and only Dolly Parton. She got the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. She wasn't there at the ceremony. She had her speech pre-taped, and it's very brief. It's like 1 minute long, and I mean, she is an icon, a living legend. It's crazy that she's never won a competitive Oscar. Like, for her songwriting, like, that never happened. I mean, she was never going to win for acting. I mean, I like her as an actress, in 9 to 5 especially. Like, that wasn't going to happen. But for her songwriting, you would think, like, that would have happened at some point throughout the decades. It never did. I am so happy the Academy gave her this prize, especially acknowledging her humanitarian efforts. I mean, just like what she's done getting books in the hands of children. I think just that is a huge part of her legacy. And then you look at her creativity, like her prolific songwriting and acting and directing and producing, everything she's done going back to what, the 60s, 70s? I mean, she has been around a long time, has done such great work, not just as an artist, but as a humanitarian. So I think that was a very worthy win. It was too bad to not see her in the room and get a very long standing ovation, the way Tom Cruise got an extremely long standing ovation. I mean, it goes on for at least 2 minutes, maybe more, and he's just standing there, like, you know, just very thankful. Dolly Parton deserved that too, but she did get an introduction from the great Lily Tomlin. That's another speech you should watch from last night's Governor's Awards. It's so funny and charming. I adore Lily Tomlin. She should get an honorary Oscar too in the years to come, just saying. So yeah, I was really thrilled with the Governor's Awards last night. The 4 recipients, that's the word, recipient. That's what I should use, not winner, right? They're the recipients of the honorary Oscars. You know, all 4 of them were very well deserving, and it was especially a thrill to see Tom Cruise finally holding an Academy Award. I still have hope in the years to come he will win his competitive Oscar. That would be a moment as well. But even if that doesn't happen, if that never happens, this icon in the industry finally has his elusive Oscar.